see, I'll do this. Let's see. New agenda. Just look at the green one quick. We're going to add a couple things. Do that to me. So this will be 608 300. We're going to do SD. I'm sorry, spec. SPEC for 3.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's meeting of the Fairmont School Board. It is Tuesday, February 12, 2019. Roll call is we are all here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have minutes from last time to approve.
Move to approve the minutes of the January 22nd school board meeting as offered.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we have a new agenda for tonight, colored green.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with, I need to add to that is the spec board meeting also report, so.
Okay.
I need to make, Joe will be reporting on SDCC.
Okay, you got that, Joe?
Add something for the community center project as well.
Okay.
Update.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve it with those changes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, celebrations. Kim Coppin.
Good afternoon. On this blustery day, we wanted to show our appreciation, and on behalf of the first grade and the elementary art department and some of my students, we created gifts for you. With gratitude, we present this gift to you, made by our students with rocks and glue. The message is simple but special and true. Our school rocks because of people like you.
Oh, cute.
Thank you very much. And enjoy.
Thank you, and please share our thank you with the kids.
Oh, look at that.
That is cute. I like that.
Very nice, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great guy. Thank you.
You said it was the first grade that made these?
It was of the older kids.
Okay, some of the older kids.
Okay, I'll put that right up here.
Nice.
Yep. Yes, there's names on the back. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Okay, thank you again. Okay, Superintendent Brown.
I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, here we go. Well, I have the pleasure to read a proclamation tonight in honor of the School Board Recognition Week. Whereas Fairmont Area Schools recognizes the importance of public education in our community, and whereas Fairmont Area Schools appreciates the vital role played by those individuals who, as local school board members, establish policies to ensure an efficient, effective school system. And whereas school board members serve as a voice that enables our community to preserve local management and control of our public schools. And whereas school board members are charged with representing our local education interests to state and federal governments and ensuring compliance with state and federal laws. And whereas school board members selflessly devote their knowledge, time, and talents as advocates for our school children. Whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district. Now therefore be it resolved that Fairmont Area Schools recognizes and salutes the members of the Fairmont Area School Board by proclaiming February 18 to 22, 2019 as School Board Recognition Week. And I do have certificates for each of you.
Beat you before?
I've been here 2 weeks and I got a certificate.
Okay.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
Right off the bat.
Julie?
Thank you.
And Rufus? Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay.
And I'll go right into the superintendent's
Okay,
report.
very good.
If you get a chance to look at the enrollment count, we actually have a net gain this week of some students at the high school and at the elementary. According to the numbers that we received today, we're up 6 students at the high school, up to 843, and we've gained 6 students in the elementary, up to 816. We've had a number of new families that have relocated to Fairmont in the last week or two, and so it's really good. So we're serving now 1,659 students. Now, when you compare that with the students that we had on 9/11, which is the first full week of school, we're actually up a couple of students. And as you know, traditionally, this time of year we tend to have some reductions because of people relocating and moving, but we actually are seeing a slight gain, and so that's really good for our student body count. Let's see, let's look at our calendar. Unfortunately, we had that luncheon scheduled today for the advisory committee of the high school students, and that was postponed. We'll set another date for that. We do have a staff welfare committee meeting tomorrow, scheduled at 4:30, and one of the main topics we'll be talking about is how to replace, what different configuration we want to take a look at replacing Jim Davison, who has submitted his letter of retirement to us. There is a community ed meeting on Thursday at noon. Just a reminder that this Friday, there's a teacher in service. There's no school for students. And of course, Monday is President's Day, and in honor of our presidents, there's no school for staff, kind of like a snow day. And then on February 21st, we have a policy committee meeting scheduled. And on Tuesday, February 26th, will be our next school board meeting. And then I just wanted to call the attention to the board. I think it's in your packet, but House File 692 was filed this last week, and it's a bill very similar to a bill that we actually had passed last year. It was part of that omnibus bill that got put into the super omnibus bill at the end of the evening on the last night of the session, and Governor Dayton vetoed that bill. But this is a bill that would provide additional state funding for career and technical classes, vocational classes that are taught outside of the regular school day. So classes taught in the evening or in the summertime or on the weekends. And we did something different this time. When we wrote this language, we actually made it very specific. So it says on page 2, for purposes of the subdivision, career and technical education courses include welding, manufacturing, construction trades, automotive, small engines, plumbing, and electrical. And that's what I refer to as the hard trades, versus family and consumer science, which was the CTE class, and agriculture. Now, agriculture already gets additional funding in the summertime, and so we really limited it to these areas that we have a severe shortage here in Minnesota, and projection is that we have many, many people that are retiring in the next few years and we need to replace. And so we're very pleased to Representative Gunther from Fairmont is a co-sponsor of this bill, along with Representative Poppy, who is from Austin. Representative Bennett is my state representative in Albert Lee, and Gene Pulowski is a state representative from Winona. So we have 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans that are co-sponsoring this bill. And we have sent this bill to the governor to review, and to the commissioner, and to key senators. I know Senator Rosen has a copy of this, and some other senators. So we're hoping that this gets some traction this year and gets passed, because it's one of those bills where everybody's in favor of it. We just have to get it done. Okay. That's, the other thing I'll just touch on a little bit. We're getting questions and phone calls now from people wondering if and when we have to make up snow days. And we have, the state law actually states that schools have to have 165 days of instruction, but they also state that we have to have so many hours of instruction at the elementary and so many hours at the high school. Our current calendar already exceeds the number of hours that are required. right now, we don't exceed the number of days. But there is some talk at the legislative level and the governor that due to the inclement weather that we've had the last few weeks, and of course in this region we also had the tornado that went through Grenada and caused some damage in September, that some schools have lost a number of days. At this point, because the teachers are under contract for 184 days, they'll be serving all of their days. The question is, do students have to come back? And at this point, we don't think that they'll have to do that unless we get a whole lot more of inclement weather. We do have 4 days built into the current calendar, though, the first week in June. That's already on the calendar, that if we did have to do snow makeup days, that those days are already on the calendar. We're encouraging all of our faculty do not plan family trips during that first week of June, just in case you have to come back. But and then one of the questions we talked about earlier in a committee, some people have asked, why don't we just have school for the students that can get here? And we did that, if you recall, last week. We ran buses on those roads that were plowed, and the roads that weren't plowed, we did not run buses that day. And any student that couldn't make it to school, of course, they were excused. The other point to point out is that we have teachers that travel from Mankato. We have teachers that travel almost 80 miles west of here that travel to come here. And so, looking out for the best interests of not only our students but our staff, that's why we make the calls that we do. And if anybody's watching this live, I've already talked to the bus company today about tomorrow's probably going to be a 2-hour late start. We'll make that announcement here in a couple of hours when we take a look at the wind.
I'd like to make a clarifying point. Our original calendar does have over 165 days.
Right.
And it's 172, I believe, that we have at the elementary. Is it 170 at the high school?
Something like that.
Something like that. So usually this is plenty of days. And hopefully it will be anyway.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, finance. Dan, donations.
Yeah, one donation in Appendix A. I introduce the following resolution and move for its adoption. Whereas the Fairmont Exchange Club donated $200 to Project Trust, be it resolved by the Fairmont Area School Board to gratefully accept the gift.
Second.
Second.
Cool. Okay.
And we'll do a roll call vote. Mike?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nicole?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Mary? Okay, motion passes. And Brad? Our finances. Yeah?
Bradley.
Okay.
Alright, so you have in your packet are transmission wires. Somewhat of a handful of wires. Our debt service payments were made in this time frame, so you'll see 2 very large payments there to U.S. Bank. Those are both for our debt service payments. Additionally, we've got a payroll in there, and yeah, everything else is pretty normal stuff. If you got any questions on any of it, I'm happy to expand if you like. Then we've got our payments here, and I've been going through those a little today with all the weather things. It's been difficult for me to get here. I'm one of the staff that travels from far away. I live over in Austin, so I got here today and found out school was canceled. So,
But we were still working.
right,
The
there
district
were
was
still a
okay.
number of people that were in the building and working today. So, as I went through the bills, there wasn't much that jumped out at me. There's a repair bill on the fence that was damaged back in the fall on the baseball diamonds. That's a somewhat larger one. We've been tracking costs on that to submit to insurance for that. And there's another one further back in here that I was going to call out too. Oh, our spring payment to community college for concurrent enrollment is in there for $26,400. So that one. that one does jump off the page a little bit. There, we make those payments twice a year, depending on how many credits our students are involved in there. So. Another one I thought was kind of interesting, School Technology Associates. That's for some biometric scanners. We're currently expanding our use of those in food service and for attendance purposes as well. So the idea there being you can reduce staff time and get more accurate counts on, say, who's buying lunch that day, rather than having either a number to punch in or an ID card to scan. Just another way of collecting that information. So we've been kind of piloting it, and this payment represents getting a few more of the scanners.
How does that work? Fingerprint?
It's not a fingerprint, but it's a digital recording of part of the finger, but it's not a fingerprint. It's a I can give you some information on that. It's an alphanumeric number, which is, golly, it's like 36 characters long, and it takes 8 points of a finger. And when students and staff, when we do that, we actually use both of our index fingers. We record both, just in case.
So politically correct version is finger imprint. Is that correct?
Yes, it is not a finger, but it is not. It is absolutely not a fingerprint, nor is a fingerprint. A fingerprint is not stored, but 8 little points of the finger are translated into an alphanumeric. We did some major research on this a couple of years ago because, and I will share. This is kind of serious, though. We do have parents. Rightfully so, it's their right to say we don't want to be involved in this. And anytime they inform us of that, we immediately, well, we just don't take their child's data recording off their index finger. And
so the important thing is it doesn't record an impression of the fingerprint. It just takes
a picture or a...
It registers some points on the finger.
It's not the complete fingerprint.
Right.
That is correct. And I think we have about a dozen students that have chosen not to participate in that, and we certainly honor that request. And we make it, when we send out letters to all of our parents, all of our students' parents, to let them know that we were going to look at this. We put this in place a year ago at the elementary, and then this year we've done the high school. We use it not only for food service, we use it also for the library system.
Right, library too.
And now we're using it for some attendance at the high school. And so it does, what's really nice about it is that it directly links into the Skyward system, which is our student information system. But if a student doesn't want to participate with that, then they can still use their 4-digit code, which they use for lunch service, or they can use the barcode for their library card. So we have alternative ways to do that.
Okay. Okay, Bradley.
All right, just a couple others that I wanted to mention here. We have SHI International. We've got a fairly substantial Chromebook order that we paid for this time frame, and we'll be rolling those out for students in coming months. There's a big stack of them outside of Will's office today. So
I'm going to touch on that a little bit too. We're doing something different. We did this a couple years ago. You know, a few years ago, we had so many new computers coming into our school system, either iPads at the elementary or Chromebooks at the 5th and 6th grade or the high school. We were getting hundreds at a time. Well, now those are in the process of being replaced. But years ago, they weren't ordered until July. We didn't get them usually till September. They weren't actually installed, available to students until late October or November. And we finally decided that's
Crazy.
If they're not going to be used on the first day of school, we're not getting them. And so we've ordered, I think it's over 300 units that we have, plus new teacher computers are coming in that are actually here. And the tech crew, all 3 of them, are working on them, and they'll all be processed. You know, one of our technicians, of course, is a member of the Minnesota National Guard, and he's gone for quite a few weeks in the summertime serving our country. And so he's not available in the summer. It's not a great time to put in new equipment. But this is a really neat way. I was talking to Lee and Will the other day, and they were attending a technology meeting up in Mankato, and they were sharing what we're doing here, and the other technicians around about the other school districts were like, wow, that's the way to do it. And it keeps everybody calm, and more importantly, it provides good quality technology for our students and our faculty. And so it's really good for our system.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in order to make that happen from a finance standpoint, to do it differently than how others do it, somewhere along the line, we had to double up our tech budget in a given year, because we would have had to buy the ones that we were putting in place in July,
Okay.
and then do another order in the spring, and otherwise that wouldn't work. So
So going
it wasn't
forward,
this year, but
so
that's-
going forward, that system will
right.
be as it is
We'll have
now.
one big tech order a year, and it'll just be in the spring instead
Okay.
of in the summer.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all the ones that I was going to highlight from here. If you've got other ones that you
No, I don't.
hit, we
So
can do that.
I would make a motion to approve the February, is that February? I would think that would be the February single checks, wire transfers for January 18th, 2019 to 2/7/2019, and payment of the February 12th, 2019 bills.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thanks, Bradley.
I have a question. Go back to the motion for a minute, Julie. Bradley, these single checks are dated January, aren't they? Okay, so the motion,
Oh, well, then I'll amend that for January then. I just
Second.
assumed that because they were,
right. So as it's written,
yep, it's as it's written.
Second.
go ahead and repeat that. I would repeat the motion. I'm sorry.
I'll repeat my second.
Okay, start over. Rewind. I will make a motion to approve the January 2019 single checks, wire transfers for January 18th to the 18/19 to January 7th, 2019, and payment of the February 12th, 2019 bills.
Second.
Although,
Now what?
Point of inquiry, is this a motion to amend the previously approved motion, or is this a separate brand new motion to do something different?
It's a correction motion.
Because of the dates.
I think it's an amendment to correct the motion.
I would say yes.
Okay.
Okay, good point.
Thank you.
So Nicole?
just love Robert's rules.
Okay, so
Okay, so I think we got it in order. So we can take a vote
for the amended
for the
motion.
amended motion. Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Do we have to vote on the motion?
No, I think we're
We're okay now?
yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Not going to jail?
Not yet.
The checks have already been written and cashed presumably, so I think it's probably.
Not all of them. Some will go out this week yet.
The ones dated today
Those
are still
those are part of the original. It's just
Right.
the January was
right. The January ones are gone. Yeah.
Okay, so Julie and Bradley, thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay.
Dan, you're up.
Yeah, we've gonna move from old business to new business. So Dan, PAC.
The general contractor bids were opened on February 5th for the project related to replacement of seating in the Performing Arts Center at the junior-senior high school. Bid tabulations are enclosed in Appendix B, and they were just reviewed at an Operations Committee meeting that we had prior to this meeting. There were 5 bidders altogether, and I understand a 6th just missed the deadline by 2 minutes, and therefore we could not accept their bid. The recommendation is that the contract be awarded to the low bidder, Brennan Construction. Alternate project bids are listed on the tabulation, and those alternate bids include a slightly higher quality of seating, an alternate to paint guard railings, handrails, and also to replace balcony aisle handrails in the upper balcony of the Performing Arts Center. And the Operations Committee approved all 3 of the alternates as well as the base bid. And the total amount for the base bid and all the alternates is $608,300. So I make a motion to approve accepting the bid from general contractor Brennan Construction in the amount of $608,300 for replacement of seating in the Performing Arts Center.
Second.
Mike?
Any questions? Any discussion?
Dan did a tabulation of the seating, and we actually are going to have more seats than previously. Do you have that? I think I might.
Okay. Currently, there are, 999 seats in the Performing Arts Center, and according to the drawings provided by the architect, we have 729 seats that will be in the lower level, 302 seats that will be in the upper level, and then we will have 5 handicap space available, 2 in the lower left-hand portion of the building, which will be new, which will be accessible, and then there will be 3 in the upper right-hand corner of the Performing Arts Center as you enter. So that total is 1,036. So we will actually be increasing the number of seats that we have in there, and also making the seats larger than we have now, as we will have seats that are 19, 20, and 21 inches wide, whereas most of the seats now are 18 and 19 inches wide.
Excellent. And the handrails, is that part of the?
Yes, in the balcony.
Upgraded handrails in the balcony. There are handrails up there now, but they're going to be upgraded. And
Was there any discussion about handrails on the main floor? Because that was brought to my attention
Yeah, that's,
some time ago, that, that our senior citizens.
No, I forgot to look at that on the drawings.
yeah,
Tyler has those.
we'll get back to you on that, but
It wasn't a line item in the bid.
no, it wasn't. But I think
Well, it says paint guard railings, handrails, and portable table legs. I mean, it doesn't say where they're at, but there is a second line item for replace balcony aisle handrails. So you can fairly infer from Alt A-2 column that there is some money in the bid for handrails and railings
Okay. Well,
to be painted. So presumably they're somewhere.
okay. Well, look into that.
there is some, but they're just not
Down the
as,
center aisle. down
yeah,
the
they're
middle.
not,
Okay.
not as handy as what you could need,
Okay.
what some people need,
So we have those, and this the structure and the layout is similar to what we have now as far as the 2 aisleways coming down and 3 sections of seating. They're just going to be, there's one area that we had added seating where there isn't now, like another 2 rows or so, and plus just the way that they have it designed and laid out, they just squeezed a few more in there.
And there will be a lift now at towards the front end of the stage.
Stage right, yes.
Yep, stage right for those handicap accessible seating areas.
Yeah, so then there will be opportunity for at least 2 handicap seats right at floor level, at stage level there.
And Cardinal Red?
That's, yep.
Okay.
I believe there's been a seat sitting in front of one of the entrances there that is an example of the seats that are going to be put in. So next time you go to an event there, take a look at that seat, and that'll be what it looks like when school starts next year.
And where is that seat again?
It's right outside the doors when you go in.
Oh, okay.
In the commons there, right, as you enter the Performing Arts Center, there's one there.
Okay.
Okay.
I forgot, did we even vote? We had so much discussion.
No, there wasn't. I don't think so.
Yeah, there's a vote
Call the
on the
question.
floor.
Okay, so any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, Mike, policy.
Sure. The policy committee met January 24th, and we reviewed a number of policies, some of which require board action, some of which do not. Regarding the ones that require board action, you have 2 before you today. One is policy 625. We were recommending deletion of that policy regarding a physical education waiver for juniors and seniors. And number 2 would be approval of a revised policy number 404 concerning employment background checks, specifically addressing our desire to have assistant and volunteer coaches who are uncompensated also submit to a background check, which would be cost of which would be covered by the school. The policies are in your packet. 404, it's paragraph 2, subdivision C is the new language we recommend. Regarding policies 901, 902, 902.1, 904, 905, and 907, they were also reviewed but do not require board action. One of the policies, the community education policy number 901, we did ask that that be sent back to the CER committee for review for recommended changes. Evidently, they did review it and did not recommend any changes, though our group hasn't revisited that. I personally think that's an error. I think that that document should be reviewed for changes. It's pretty outdated, but our board does not need to take any action on those. So I would offer a motion to, in 2 parts. 1, delete policy number 625, and in second part, approve the revised policy number 404.
Marie?
Any questions, discussion?
The just to clarify the FIED waiver for 11th and 12th grade students, it's because we no longer require that class, so there's no reason for us to have a policy waiving that class.
Very good.
Pretty simple.
Okay.
Further discussion item, I would say all of our policies, to my understanding, and certainly the ones in question on this motion, are sourced from the Minnesota School Boards Association policies. They have, for those that don't know, watching at home, they have model policies that they suggest that schools have. They let you know if a school is supposed to have a policy, and while you are not required to adopt their policy, they do give you a sample. The policy 404 is a great example of us using the template policy, but then adding some of our own language that we think is important for our districts.
Okay.
And further discussion point, Chair, I really want to stress for the record again that the community education policy 901 needs to be reviewed, revised, and updated. I really think that our discussion at the meeting that I recall was that it wasn't our policy committee review committee is not the place to start such a review, but that we felt, at least in my opinion, that a review needed to happen, and that if it was reviewed and sent back without recommended changes, I'd ask that we put that on our agenda again with maybe a more specific recommendation as to what we're talking about, because, like I said, it was quite outdated, and it needed to be, I think, looked at with some fresh set of eyes.
Okay, so, yeah, so.
I'll follow through on that.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, Mike.
Personnel, Julie?
Call a question.
Take a vote.
Well, that's right. The policy question, all those in favor?
Yep.
Aye. Okay, now personnel.
Okay. Well, we have quite a list here. First here on the first item is employment of John Kesselring as head strength and conditioning coach at a salary of $6,250 for fall, winter, spring, and summer coaching. And that's laid out in Appendix E, along with Matt Mahoney being hired as the assistant to the head strength conditioning coach at a salary of $32.50 for fall, winter, spring, and summer coaching. And, well, let's just do those two at once. I think we already talked about Jim a little bit separately, so I'll make those two a motion to hire John Kesselring as a head strength and conditioning coach at a salary of $62.50 for fall, winter, spring, and summer coaching, and Matt Mahoney as the assistant strength and conditioning coach at a salary of $32.50 for those same months.
Okay, any questions, discussion?
Question, was it discussed regarding Mr. Mahoney that you would not just increase his base salary, that same dollar amount, and then modify his employee contract and duties and responsibilities to include the strength assistant coaching duties? Was that considered?
That's what we usually do when we add additional coaching responsibilities or co-curricular responsibilities. We just add that as an addendum to the current one-page contract.
Okay, so that's what will actually happen functionally with his compensation. More duties, more money makes sense. But how we're approving it as a line item as that assistant strength coach. Because to me, really, we're approving an increase in compensation commensurate with an increase of responsibilities for his underlying employment contract.
But we're
and
not
not actually hiring him as a part-time assistant strength and conditioning coach.
Well, actually, is it always going to be the activities director's duty?
Not necessarily.
No,
Not
so it is
necessarily.
separate.
It's separate.
This is a new position that we're creating, or two new positions
Right.
that we're creating.
It's not a permanent duty of the activities director, so it should not go on part of his contract.
Right, because
It'll be a separate.
Yeah, I think that's what you're asking, right?
Well, I mean, we're going to ask him to do more than he's contracted to do. We need to pay him more. I think we all agree that would be fair and appropriate. I'm saying that we are not employing him as an assistant strength coach. We are increasing his duties and his pay as the athletics director. You know, if we are assigning him as an FTE 0.25 for this part-time position, and he's to be injured while doing that job, does he not get qualified for full workers' compensation because this is a part-time job, not his full-time job? Which hat is he wearing?
well-
I just think it's cleaner to say, Matt, we're going to pay you more, but we're going to make you have this responsibility. And if later on we take those responsibilities away and we hire a different person, we then would modify his policy, his contract that way.
Mike, if you look at our individual contracts, Matt currently has a teaching contract. He has a head football coaching section of that contract, and he has an assistant track coach section.
And then this is
adding a third one.
Okay.
So, the only difference is that this is happening later in the year. If you recall, usually twice a year we approve all the fall coaches and all the winter coaches and all the spring coaches. I guess we do that 3 times throughout the year. Yeah. So this is just kind of a late addition for something that's currently been going on. So.
And it's similar. I mean, Mr. Kesselring, he's a teacher in our district, and we're not making that part of his teacher duties.
Right.
It's the coaching contract is separate from the teaching or administrative contracts.
That's correct.
Is this retroactive then? They've already been doing this where you pay them back to the fall.
It is. Yep.
Good.
And is it had been made clear that they are not just there for football duties, as far as it's not just football players that can be there to lift. It can be any athletic endeavor here at school that they can be there to, whether it's the tennis team or whether it's gymnastics or anybody is allowed to use that time and then use that.
That was how
coaching.
we had
Yes.
requested it to be.
Right.
To be that how the position was to be filled.
And if you look at the Appendix C, the specifics at the bottom where these people will be communicating with the head coaches of the various teams that we have. Because you're right, a tennis workout is different than the hockey workout, different than the football workout. So,
But Mr. Kesselring is knowledgeable in those areas and can help with different types of workouts. So
yeah, very highly qualified.
yes.
Both of them are actually.
Is this a new position, or are we filling an existing one with new people?
This is the new position that was put into last year. As we put the plan together, Mike, for this year's budget, we set aside $10,000. And if you notice these two, if you add these two up, it's $9,500 because there could be an assistant coach who fills in every once in a while for the other $500. But this is something that we put in this year's budget, and we're just now finally filling the positions. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Good discussion?
Okay.
Take a vote?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Julie, you're on.
Yes, and then the next one is retirement of Jim Davison as 3-6 principal. He's tendered his letter of retirement effective June 30th, 2019. Jim has served the district for 30 years, so that would be 1989 when he started. And so I would make a motion for the retirement of Jim Davison, 3-6 principal, effective June 30th, 2019.
Second.
Okay, question, discussion.
We're gonna. I mean, he's not here. We're gonna do something to, commemorate and recognize his 3 decades of service to the school, right?
Of
We're not gonna let him get away with
Of course.
this. Okay, good.
Yes, that'll be done later.
Any other discussion? Any questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. Okay, and then I would take the 2 resignations. There's a resignation for Michelle Albrecht, special education teacher, effective June 3rd, 2019, and also the resignation of Tammy Holland, ECFE aide, effective February 15th, 2019.
Second.
Okay. Discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the last one, the employment of Tiffany Shooter as a special ed para and ECFE aide, effective February 19th, 2019, a salary of step 1.
Okay, any questions?
Is Miss Shutter replacing Miss Holland's position?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was a big list. So we'll move to board committee reports. Operations, Dan?
We had 2 meetings, the first of those being on January 24th. And in that first meeting, our Director of Building and Grounds briefed us about the need to replace a piece of equipment from 1969. We have a payloader that is used in mostly snow removal, but a few other things. Tyler got an estimated trade-in value of $9,000. Been looking at different ways to replace that equipment. He investigated the possibility of leasing a payloader. We discovered today that we can lease only a new payloader. We cannot lease a used one, so we are still figuring out what would be the best way to do that. Whether to find another piece of equipment or what have you, but that's mainly again for snow removal, landscaping, and tree removal. Second on that day was the discussion and eventually the unanimous support for the purchase of 2 batting cages to be installed in the south gym of the high school. Estimated cost $24,000, which will be split 4 ways between the Booster Club, Baseball Association, Softball Association, and the district, all taking a quarter of that amount. And Activities Director Matt Mahoney has been directed to share detailed information with Tyler Garrison regarding the purchase and installation of these cages. They'll actually hang down from the ceiling, and they can be brought down and up as needed so that PE can continue during the day there. The nets can be dropped, and they're side by side, so both softball and baseball can be in there together if necessary, or 2 of the same at once too. So we moved on with that. The committee discussed the idea of adding emergency information on the back of future staff badges. We talked a little bit about some private employers that do that, so we were in support of that idea. Tyler also briefed us about the purchase of 12 baby changing tables to be installed in 10 separate bathrooms. The other 2 will be kept as spares and replacements, and the installation of those has already begun. I was under the impression that we had actually already had those in all of the bathrooms, like at the gym and such, but I guess we didn't in all the places. So I'm glad that was brought up and glad that that's getting done. And we also looked at a proposal to sand and refinish the 2 elementary gym floors during this coming summer in both the annex gym and the what's the Little Cardinal gym and the Five Lakes gym at the elementary there. We looked at the proposal is from a company from Princeton, Minnesota that did our they were involved in our renovation of the high school gym about 10 years ago, and they do an outstanding job. Right now it looks like we are going to do the West gym. It's just really worn out. When kids are playing basketball, they're sliding and they're kind of like it's almost on sand, so it's dangerous. and it hasn't been done for a long time, and it needs to be redone. This would include sanding, new finish, and then we would paint lines on there for not only basketball but also for pickleball, which is often played in that gym. We are going to be seal coating parking lots this summer. We did that. Roof project, we're going to restore the roof of the Performing Arts Center, which was not originally on the rotation, but since we're doing all that work in there this summer anyway, we're going to do the roof as well as the seating and lighting, because it would be nice to not have your new seats ruined by water leaking from the roof. So, let's see, a couple other safety items, and looking at getting rid of the, there's an old concrete block foundation out on the vocational wing of the high school that was there when they built houses. That just old, ugly concrete blocks just laying out there is going to be removed. And that was that meeting.
Well, that was a productive meeting. Policy, Nicole.
Yes, we met on January 24th and reviewed the policies that were discussed this evening. Another policy we took a brief look at was the graduation policy, but because the legislature is looking at some changes, we decided to not look at that anymore. We just kind of, we'll look at that at a later date when we know from the legislature, so we don't have to review this and change this twice. Otherwise, it was what we talked about tonight in our meeting.
Okay. And next is breakfast with the board. I attended along with Mari and Julie. You guys remember any comments?
The donuts are a hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we started this project, we had a few takers, but we came up with the idea of bringing donuts, and we've become very popular. Unfortunately,
and most of them will talk to us. I mean,
Right.
you know, I mean, there's a few that didn't have anything
building
to
bridges.
say. Yes, exactly. Well, you got to build
One
trust.
donut at a time.
Build trust. So
But one thing that's been lacking with those breakfast with the board discussions is attendance by some of the upperclassmen, the high school students. So we're working on that, trying to set up a separate meeting, try to meet with just some the high school kids.
well, the good news is these kids will grow up too, and if we build that relationship with them, they will also, have that trust with us. So
Very good point.
Yeah, because I will say this, the 7th and 8th graders, they've
Yep.
been pretty consistent.
Yep.
And I like donuts.
Yep. And
They've got just wonderful ideas too, though. And
yeah.
Okay,
And just for the record, the donuts are being privately funded,
that's right.
not school,
That's right.
not school
Not by a
expenses.
dentist.
Right.
Okay, operations, Mike.
I think Dan covered pretty much what we've talked about the last month.
I think that's the one we canceled.
Yeah.
And so,
That we just did before this
yes.
meeting?
Yeah.
There's a couple, there's
Yeah.
3 operations ones on here, so I think.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was one that was
so that'll trim the list a little
canceled
bit.
due to the weather, and then we had it right before this one.
Okay, so Joe, are you going to do SDCC?
I will. In fact, right before that, before the SDCC meeting met last night, Mrs. Rosen and Jessica Martinez and I met with the 7 elementary teachers that are working on their English language learner master's degrees. And we met with them for an hour before the SDCC meeting, and they are in the process of working on a proposal for our current kindergarten and first grade ELL students to have a summer program, maybe even up to a 9-week summer program for 20 students that are level 1 ELL students. And we looked at that list. Nicole was in my office earlier today, and we looked at, we have 77 English language learner students at our elementary right now. And most of them are in the earlier grades, K1, 2, 3, 4. And so we're looking at that. And we're very pleased, though. I mean, we're one of the few schools that actually has 7 teachers that are going back and get their master's degree in ELL. and one in each grade level, and that's going to be a great service for our students. Then we went to the Staff Development Curriculum Committee meeting at 4 o'clock, and a couple of things that they talked about. The first thing is, of course, Friday is a staff development day for our faculty, and the elementary SDCC folks, actually the whole group, not just elementary, but they were talking about the vertical alignment groups that are meeting on Friday. And that's the goal of that is to try to get the E2, E12 teachers to work together with vertical alignment to make sure that the math departments are all working together in the language arts and the science and the social studies. And that's going to be an exciting day on Friday. They also spent a lot of time talking about how to replace the Q-Comp leaders. We have a few folks that are retiring this year. You know, Jody Christensen plans to retire at the end of this year, and she's one of our 2 Q-Comp teacher coaches. And based on what happens to the, as we fill Mr. Davison's position, there may be another position that would be available. And so they talked quite a bit about that. They're trying to recruit teachers to sign up to be the secretary, treasurer, coach, Q-Comp coordinator, observer coordinator, and the PLC coordinator, and trying to get that done. The last thing they talked about, too, is that they're looking at doing a book study, and there is a request by our paraprofessionals. You know, remember, this is the year that we took over the paraprofessional contract from Southern Plains, and one thing we did at the request of the paras, we purchased a paraprofessional book for each para. And so we did that so they could learn more about what they could do to work closely with our faculty members. And they're looking at doing a book study on that book as one way to maybe make up some of the snow days that we have had. And so it's just, I'm really pleased that our paraprofessionals are working out so well. We have observed that we have a higher attendance since they've been with us than they had before. And we've had very few people that have left. The new person that is being hired, Tiffany Shooter, her husband is currently deployed overseas in the military. And I think I'm pretty sure he's in the Corps, Marine Corps. And so she's just going to be a great addition to fill in for someone who is resigning. And if you come to my office in the next few weeks, you look behind my door, I have a whiteboard, and it has 10 different items up there right now because before the end of the school year, we have a lot of changes to make in terms of people moving around or people retiring or people moving on to other locations. And so we have a lot of work to do between now and the end of the year. It's an exciting time. So that's what SDCC did. So.
Okay, very good.
Southern Plains.
Yep.
Well, did we talk about, or did you just discuss the
Yeah, the operations committee meeting that we had right before this meeting was about the PAC seating project bid that we approved, the gym floor refinishing, and an update on the payloader. That's what we covered there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. You condensed it.
Yeah. I caught on.
You caught on. I didn't. So then I will report on the Southern Plains Educational Cooperative Board meeting, and that was held. We had a snow day also for that. The 28th we didn't meet, but we had it last Wednesday, whatever date that was. I don't remember my date, but basically what it is we had election of officers, then some resignations, terminations, and we had hiring, lane changes, approval for signatures on the checks. Also is the resolution to reduce programs for staff, and that's just a general housekeeping thing we usually do just to protect the school district and that, so we don't get caught with that. And then we also approved agreement with for an on-call interpreter service. Otherwise, that was it. We did receive at the beginning too a update on the building project too, and so I was late for that meeting, so I missed the update. But anyway,
I will say that Director has been briefing us, the members of the superintendents that are on her advisory committee, and she sends out a weekly update of how the Lincoln project is going, and it's going pretty well actually. you know, the weather's gotten involved a little bit with some of the excavation for the new addition.
Right.
However.
But they've been able to work on most of this, though, is my understanding. They're doing other projects so that when they can get to do the outside projects, they can do it. You know, they're doing some other projects inside, so they're always working, and so that's good that we're just not, you know, stopped, you know.
And they're still on track to relocate from Winnebago to the Lincoln School right after the MEA break in October of this year. So that's pretty exciting.
Yep.
It's going to be a great facility for our kids and our staff and our community.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have then.
Okay, and Mike?
Just briefly on the Fairmont Community Center YMCA project, the city has entered into an agreement, memorandum of understanding with the YMCA directors out of Albert Lee and Worthington, who are now officially engaged on doing due diligence for programming for the anticipated community center. And it's my understanding that, I don't know if it's going to be Mr. Humple from the city or who, but they'll be contacting, I told them to talk to you, Joe. They want to set this up and start talking with the school about what our needs might be, programming needs, and things like that as we move forward. So it's a pretty big development. A lot of work and a lot of time has been spent on this project. To have them formally engaged is a really big step. And so I think you'll be hearing a lot more as they meet with the school going forward.
And Mike, just to verify, we are actually, Mike did call me last week. We're meeting on Thursday, which is Valentine's Day, I believe.
Is this now? Is this another another YMCA? I mean, you know, the school district and that did look into with CER probably about 20 years ago into doing a YMCA. Is this a whole new study, or what do you?
This is all brand new. One of the things that we like to talk about is that because there's a lot of younger professionals on the Fairmont Community Center Action Committee, we don't really remember or know what happened before, and we don't care. We're doing it now, and so we have a lot of data that is about now. We have demographic studies of the community for what it is now, and we also have, you know, what we all hope it is going forward. We want young families with children to live in this community, to send our kids to our schools, to, you know, work and provide services that we need. And so it's very much driven and focused on now and going forward, and very, very minimal information has been sought or time spent on about efforts in the past that were unsuccessful. So I would view this as brand new, never happened before in the history of Fairmont step in this process of getting a YMCA possibly in town.
Yeah, and that, a lot of that was covered in the community meeting that we had at the Opera House here. What was it, last month, or was it
December?
December already, yeah.
Okay.
And so at that meeting, Dan, that was hoping that they would sign on an MOU, and now they have actually done that. So I mean, it's official and it's moving forward.
So what will that mean for the community ed and recreation department then? I mean, will that make any changes in our with our community ed?
You know, I think that's one of the discussions that
is that going to be discussed at this?
It will be,
and that's why the school is the first call. Frankly, I mean,
Okay.
there are synergies, there's overlaps, but there's also fantastic opportunities for facilities and programming. So really, that's why the school is the first call.
And we actually, Mike Humple and I actually have two meetings set up. I'm meeting with Mike and somebody from the Y, I believe, on Thursday, and then at a follow-up, we'll have Matt Mahoney, our activities director, and Ronnie Dower, our CER director, also meet with me and Mike and whoever else, because the more information we can share and be very open, and that's, you know, I will tell you, I just really appreciate working with the city. We've done some nice things together, whether it's housing developments or other things, and, you know, we're all in this together. And so the more that we can do collectively, collaboratively, it's in the best interests of all of us. So I'm pretty excited.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, any other topics for discussion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good.